Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harridge. Thank you so much for swinging back by. Hey, real quick, click below, like, subscribe, follow, give us a review. Let us know what you think. I'm here today with kind of an industry icon, Jeremy Brandt. Jeremy, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So I won't butcher your background. Instead, I'll just let you tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, maybe you set me up for failure with that intro. I appreciate it. But so my background is I started out really in technology. I was building computer networks as a 19, 20-year-old when the internet was just kind of taking off. And when the dot-com boom bust happened, I got laid off and I started flipping houses here in Dallas and really just started applying a bunch of my tech background to the householding business. I started doing online advertising, SEO, and really none of the investors were doing any online ads. And pretty quickly started getting leads from all over the country for people that wanted to sell their house to an investor. And so I kind of took the tech background and built a lead generation business out of all these leads coming in from places outside of Dallas-Fort Worth, where I'm based. And I started selling those leads to investors. And as you know, in the early 2000s, the real estate market was taking off. And so there was a huge demand for these home seller leads from real estate investors. And that was really the foundation, the start of Fast Home Offer 20 years ago. We started this company, it was its 20th anniversary, it's hard to believe, of doing marketing to connect motivated home sellers and bring them in and connect them with a local real estate investor in their market who will buy their house. And that was really the start of kind of this 20-year career in real estate and technology and investing. I've done lots of different things along the way. I bought about 10 years ago, WeBuyHouses.com, which is maybe one of the most well-known brands in the real estate investing space. We really just bought the domain and assets tied to it and created a brand licensing company around WeBuyHouses.com. And along the way, I've still done real estate investing, some commercial buildings, some single-family homes, and lots of different things. Now I'm into lending and bridge financing. So it's been a really fun career, lots of twists and turns. I've done a lot of different things, but really my passions are around the real estate and the technology and the marketing pieces of investing and bringing all those pieces together.
Perfect. So 20 years, two completely different roads that led to the same spot. Works for me.
Here we are.
Here we are. First segment every week, the bottom line up front. We're an attention deficit society. People get a phone call, they pull over, get gas, they forget to turn us back on. Maybe we already bored them. So I like to take the first 2 minutes, up to 2 minutes, give them the most important things that you're seeing today in the market, things you think they need to know, maybe things you think they should be doing or things they should be avoiding, or the cliff notes of what we're going to talk about for the next 30 minutes. Good to go?
Good to do?
Go.
All right, well, here's my take on the bluff. I think some of the most important things for people to be thinking about right now are AI. So we're using AI a lot in our business relative to real estate. I think if this is not something that you're on the front edge of, you're gonna miss out. Every small business owner, no matter what industry they're in, needs to be really focused on understanding how AI works. AI is a little bit of a wrong name for it, but basically these technologies that are coming out that use machine learning to automate a lot of your processes. So that's number one, I think that people need to focus on. Number two is, to me, a much broader topic, but one of the things that I've recognized over my life trajectory has been when I'm consistent and methodical in what I do, I'm very successful. When I chase squirrels and ping around the place like every entrepreneur wants to do and find a shiny object to go chase after, often I fail and it wastes a lot of time in my business. And so one of the things that I've really coached myself and trained myself over time is to be very, very consistent. You think about in your health, you think about in other areas of your life, skipping one meal, eating one healthy meal is not gonna make a difference. It's the consistency over time. The same is true in real estate investing, the same is true in business. Consistently doing the same thing over and over and over again is what brings real wealth and real success in life, either monetarily or with your relationships or other things. It's that consistency over time. And the third thing that I'm really passionate about is just surrounding yourself with amazing people and always be learning. That's why I do podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I read a lot. I'm always trying to surround myself with people that are smarter than me, that have a better insight in what's happening in the market, that know more about AI or technology than I do. So I think always thinking about how do you be a lifelong learner and surround yourself with amazing people that just know more about some topic than you will really make you successful.
Okay, so I'm not going to turn this into a Chat GPT episode.
I was going to answer every question with a Chat GPT. This would be great.
But man, you're right. If you're not on top of machine learning, we were on a conference call. Listen to me, half sentences. I get excited about this. we recently, and I won't say which company I'm involved with, we were talking about an ebook, a 40-page ebook with ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it needs some massaging, but it is scary how good it is.
It's amazing. I mean, I have so many examples from both our business and friends that I work with or that I know. And we're at the infancy of this technology, so it's going to be 10 times better 2 years from now. But we're at the infancy. I have a friend that has written about 10 books, and I said, all you really need to do now is take your 10 books, drop it into ChatGPT or a similar tool, and give it an outline of what you want it to write, and it will write an entire book with the outline using your voice, using your tools, using your techniques, but a totally original book based on that. Another friend of mine runs some big call centers, and he said one of the tools that they're using this machine learning for is it will real-time monitor all the call center agents' conversations, their sales agents, and then you plug in, did they close the sale or not close the sale? And once it has enough of that data from the call center conversations, in real time, it knows when a call center agent is going to fail in the sale because it knows the arc of a successful sale and the arc of a failure sale, both tone of voice, words used, inflections, all of these things. And so it's amazing. In a call center, when an agent's halfway through the conversation, you can almost know with pretty good certainty, are they going to fail in this conversation? Are they going to succeed? And then start to coach them out of that. So that's just one example of a million things of how this is going to be used in businesses and really transform a lot of how business is done.
And it's amazing. You think about it, 20 years ago when we started in this business, you had kind of an idea that if you could keep the seller on the phone for more than 5 minutes, the odds of buying the house went up. But if you went over 10 minutes, the odds went down because you were bonding too much. Like I figured it out. Like 7.5 minutes was like perfect.
Yeah.
Like you got enough out of them and enough rapport, but you didn't go over. Anyway, now you can figure it out amongst not just you, but a massive call center.
Absolutely. When you think about this in real estate investing, right, we deal with, tens of thousands of leads a month in our business, home sellers contacting us and trying to figure out how to decode that amount of data and spot trends and identify little nuances in the types of things that are coming in and what leads to success and failure. It's quite difficult, but you can load these AI models with some instructions and tools, and they can very quickly spot very minute trends within large data sets and tell you, here's why this is successful, here's why this is failing. And it's more than a human could do with 20 or 30 or 50 hours worth of time trying to go through individual things. So we're really looking at a lot of different ways of using this, both in our lead business and some of the other things that we're doing.
This is, I think this is going to be an artificial intelligence conversation.
I didn't know it was going to go there, but okay.
But literally we were on a call 2 weeks ago with a CEO and Jeff was like, we've got to leverage this. We've got to use AI. Then I'm on another call with a large securitization aggregator. I won't say who. And the machine learning they're doing, like you think about it, in a real estate note package, if I send you a DSCR 30-year loan that RCN does, by the time it's scanned from the title company and scanned in our warehouse facility, hundreds of pages of notes, of deeds of trust, of title abstracts. And this securitization aggregator said that they've already got it to 98% accuracy where they can scan the PDFs and extract the data from the notes because the notes are all the same. And he was saying, like, you don't understand. He goes, there normally is a human opening the PDF, scrolling to find it, entering it in over here. He was like, the days of work that we're saving.
Yeah.
And the increased accuracy, like it's game changer.
Well, I have a friend that's in the lending space as well, and they said one of the things that they're using a lot of this machine learning for is to qualify borrowers. So they're in the kind of the subprime lending space, both in real estate and other areas. They said, our main tool for a long time has just been credit score. But that's such a arbitrary number that doesn't look at a lot of different factors, and especially in higher risk loans.
Specifically subprime. Yeah.
Right. In higher risk loans, there are thousands of things that we can look at that will predict the likelihood of somebody being able to repay this loan or not, even if they have a low credit score, or if they have a high credit score, but these other kind of factors, is a high likelihood that they might default on it. And so he said we are training these machine learning models on how to evaluate all of our successful loans. What are all the loans that were paid back consistently? And what are all the failed loans that weren't paid back? And build models around what causes failure and what causes success based on thousands and thousands of data points in that loan process, information about the borrowers, information about properties, all of that.
Well, so for so long, we've lead scored
Yeah.
off of human input.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets exciting as an investor when I just for the audience, I buy leads from my investing company from Fast Home Offer. My mother and my brother, I think, have one of the We Buy Houses licenses. And it's amazing if you start being able to, I call it auto-magically, append more data underneath the submission, validating addresses, validating phone numbers, validating emails, running AVMs. Before you know it, you're going to be able to program my phone to like explode in my hand because it's a great lead. It's like, stop dinner and call this person, or let this one go to a drip. I mean, it's exciting.
Yeah.
But also, then you think, if I don't get ahead of it, it's going to get ahead of me.
Right. Well, and it's why, I'm so passionate about kind of some of these pieces of it, because we're absolutely looking at all of those things of how do we lead score at a whole nother level on these leads that are coming in. But then you think about whether it's real estate or other businesses, if you're not on the front edge of that, your competitors are. Not all your competitors, but some of them are. Some of them are looking at this stuff. And if as a business owner, you're not, you're going to fall behind. Those competitors are going to leapfrog you really far if they get that kind of technology and you haven't figured it out for yourself yet. So it's why we're focusing so much energy on it and thinking about how do we apply these tools in our business, and then just talking to everybody, finding people smarter than me to teach me about some of these tools.
So I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to come back and talk about technology and artificial intelligence and processes, because some of you said I want to hit on. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for fast funding for your next fix and flip? What about leverage for your next long-term rental or vacation rental? Need capital for a new construction project? Look no further. RCN Capital has you covered. As the leading nationwide lender for real estate investors, RCN Capital offers short-term and long-term financing solutions for your next investment property. RCN Capital takes a common-sense approach to your loan request, offering high leverages and low rates backed by superior customer service. Whether you're investing in single-family properties or multifamily properties across the U.S., RCN Capital has funding options for you with no hoops to jump through and quick closings in as little as 2 weeks. Ready to get a quote for your next investment property? Visit rcncapital.com/podcast to apply today. There is no fee to apply. Again, that's rcncapital.com/podcast to apply today.
Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm still here with Jeremy Brandt with Fast Home Offer, WeBuyHouses.com. Don't forget, click below, rate, like, subscribe, review. We want to hear from you. I'm not going to talk about machine learning. I'm going to talk about machine learning for processes. Dealing with tens of thousands of submissions. Is that per month?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, per month.
And we're like you, we have hundreds of thousands of commusters.
I got to get some of those.
You don't need to edit that. That was perfect. Commusters. New word from Tim Harriage. And then you start looking at the amount of submissions and the modeling and the sizing. And now when real estate wise, we'll talk real estate today. The February housing report just came out. It's the first time in 11 years the median price has gone down year over year. So you and I both remember from 08, 09, now you start having declining market flags on appraisals. Mm-hmm. Now all of a sudden automated underwriting happens differently. So as a lender, I start panicking. I'm not panicking, but you have to be diligent. And what you just said is the person that can be diligent the quickest is going to win the race, right? So talk about, and you don't even have to talk about machine learning, but talk about process improvement when dealing with that amount of information.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll apply it to business generally and to our leads business. You're right. We've got tens of thousands of home sellers a month contacting us from many different sources, and trying to score those, figure out, which ones are good, which ones aren't good, how to route them, what to do becomes a really, really big project. And I'm a very big proponent of use technology to solve problems before you use people to solve problems.
Right.
It's much easier to manage technology. And so we have a relatively small staff, and we build a lot of processes and put rules in place, which is really just the basis of machine learning. We put rules in place to make things happen in the business automatically. So once we identify something that has to happen over and over, we put a rule in place, it happens over and over, whether it's a human that's going to do that task, or ideally we can automate it through technology and make that thing happen over and over and over again. And so I think in any business, you by the third time you've done the same thing over and over, it ought to be a process that doesn't require thought to make happen. If you've got a repetitive task, it needs to be documented and built out. And we've done a lot of those in our business over 20 years and changed a lot of them. And then once you have documented it, you've got the magic of process improvement, where you can look at it and say, we could probably do that a little bit better. Or somebody else can look at it because it's written down and say, there's a little better way to do that. And you make these little incremental changes. The Japanese were famous for this, for saying we just need small incremental changes over time that leads to massive improvement. And that's why Toyotas are such high quality vehicles, is they empower everybody to make tiny, tiny process improvements. But over time, millions of process improvements lead to amazing process and amazing quality.
I was talking with someone at a related company the other day, a large institution that acquires assets on the secondary market. And we were talking about, don't map your process from the top down, map it from the bottom up. Mm-hmm. Because so often, I'd say the boss thinks something's happening a certain way, but if you go ask the people doing it, they're like, oh no. I got to enter that crap in that Excel spreadsheet 4 different times. Mm-hmm. And I got to copy and paste from here to over here, when maybe the person with a C title maybe be like, oh no, we enter it one time and it automatically goes through all the systems. And you're like, oh, no, you don't. But so when you're listening to this, if you're out there, and it really doesn't matter if you have a 3-person company or a 10-person company, right? Or a 10,000-person company. For me, if I sat here and told you the way my house buying business worked today, it would really just be from my theory or the way I think it should be versus the way it's actually happening today. Mm-hmm. So if you're out there listening, map from the bottom up, not the top down. And even the interesting you said about Toyota, I guess even process improve from the bottom up as well, right? Like decentralize that ability to make improvement.
Well, I think giving your employees the power to raise a flag and say, hey, this doesn't seem very efficient, and they can have a voice with management or their boss or whoever they should talk to, and they're not kind of, in a lot of companies, especially old guard companies, they just kind of want employees to do what they're supposed to do and keep their mouth shut and keep going. And I think that's a huge detriment to the growth of a company. Like, you want the people on the front lines to be able to say, I think there's a better way. Who can I talk to about it? And they take that seriously. One of my employees and a guy that I worked with for a really long time did process improvement for another company, a very large company in the tech space. And he would go around and find out that people were doing massive spreadsheets to report up to management that management never read, because somewhere along the line, somebody had said, we need these reports. Somebody would spend 8 hours putting together a report, analyzing all this information to provide it to management. And then the management guys didn't want it and never read it and didn't pay any attention to it. But it was because those two pieces weren't paying attention, and just wasting, hours and hours and hours of their time in the business creating something that was worthless, essentially. So I think you're totally right. Start at the bottom, the front line, whether it's, 1 layer of organization or 10 layers of organization, the people doing the actual work are the people that are going to have the good ideas on how to make the work more efficient.
So don't be an old guard company. I guess that's going to be the title. I do want to transition to real estate a little bit. 2020 was a really weird year. Started out pretty decent, then got really bad really fast, then got really great really fast. After 20-something years in the business, never saw that one before. 21 was a phenomenal year for anyone that touched anything to do with real estate. Mm-hmm. And then the first 3 months of 22, first 4 or 5 months of 22, pretty dang good. Since then, been a little weird.
Yep.
Massive shortage in housing, doubling of interest rates. When you look at the cost of goods just in general, I think it's $40 a gallon for paint these days instead of $8. I'm very curious, and this is like such a hard segue, but those 10,000 leads a month between We Buy Houses and Fast Home Offer, how many ballpark investors are buying, or let's say, how many markets are you selling? Because I know you have a lot of people that buy in multiple markets. I don't want to how many markets are you selling those into?
Every market. So we, in the lead business and with WeBuyHouses.com, we're cover the entire United States and most of Canada, but the major cities in Canada.
So safe to say you got a couple thousand customers. What are they telling you? What are they feeling? Let's really morph into, let's milk this part of your brain now. What's the sentiment like? Like, what are they thinking? What are they feeling? What are they looking at this year?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great question. A lot of it depends on the market they're in. So we've kind of, I've got this national perspective, probably similar to you, where I'm looking at kind of things on a very large scale level across the country, interest rates, banks, things that are happening to everybody. But the average investor is in one market, working their one market. And so the sentiment really changes a lot market to market. There's some areas that were once incredibly hot, like I would say Austin is a good example of that, where investors have really almost just shut down their operation and said this market is, we can't find a good deal in this market right now. We've got to just hold off and wait. And I think especially in some of those really fast growing markets from a price appreciation standpoint, there's a mismatch between what consumers think that their house is worth and the reality of what their house is worth today on the market. And sometimes that just takes 6 months, a year, 2 years for those things to kind of come into alignment for the homeowner to understand their house that was worth $1 million is not still worth $1 million. It's worth $800,000, which is what it was 2 years ago. So it's not like you lost a massive amount of money, right? You had a huge run up and then just a correction to kind of a normal curve of property values. But there's still, I think, quite a few markets where investors are very active. They're still buying a lot of houses. I think the sentiment and what we see a lot of people doing is being more cautious. So they're having to buy houses at a little bit deeper discount to kind of protect the risk side of things. They're trying not to get involved in very major rehabs unless they buy really deep, so that if 6 months from now when they're ready to sell the house, the market has significantly shifted again, they're not holding that house that maybe they paid too much for, or the cost of construction skyrocketed in the middle of the rehab and killed their numbers. So people are just being more cautious but we're not seeing people shut their business down. We're not seeing people really stop doing business. It's just being more cautious.
So it's interesting. That's the same thing we're seeing, right? Shorter timelines, smaller projects, less exposure, and lower offers, which for a lending company is difficult because what we start to see is our average loan amount going way down, right? And we get paid, on percentages. So that's been an interesting transition. How long do you think it'll last? What wins, supply or demand? I mean, one of them got to win.
Yeah. Well, truly, I have no idea for sure, right? I mean, if anybody really had the crystal ball on what the future looked like, I think I'd have a lot more money than I do. And you just don't know. I think one of the reasons it's so difficult to predict some of these things is one action will have 3 or 4 different effects, and so these cause-effect relationships are very complicated. The raising interest rates, we saw these recent bank failures and kind of all the small things that led to one of the biggest bank failures in history. And so, from my perspective, the way that we plan in our business is that this kind of imbalance in the market is going to last a year or 2 years and a half. Just from a company planning standpoint, that let's plan that this is kind of what things look like into the future, and let's act accordingly. I think it could be less than that. A lot of it has to do with what happens with interest rates. A lot of it has to do with, do we start to have a confidence in our banking system problem with people? That can start to get really scary. Things with Russia and Ukraine can blow up. So there's a lot of things that are just completely out of.
Not use the word blow up in that
well, that's a bad choice of words. They could go sideways, and so there's a lot of things that can just affect your environment. I think ultimately, I'm very bullish on real estate. I have been my entire career. I've been through many of the ups and downs, just like you have, and I think in real estate, you just consistently over time have more demand than you have supply. You have new people coming in, properties declining, properties need to be repaired over time. So you got properties in decline that need to be repaired. That's why real estate investors exist, is to buy, repair, and sell those properties. And you have new people moving into houses all the time. And so I think whether it's from home building, apartment building, or renovating single family homes as a real estate investor, generally what happens is the supply can't keep up with demand, except for when the market gets a little bit out of whack, and then it kind of rights itself a little bit, because home builders aren't going to put down huge housing developments if supply and demand are in equilibrium, right? They're waiting for that supply and demand to get a little bit out of whack. And then the rehab homes are usually the ones that are less expensive than a brand new home build. And so that, that's a very part of the market that needs to be served by a group of companies or people in the United States is repairing those houses. So, I take the very long-term view of over time, real estate forever is going to have this nice upward slope up and to the right. And there's a bunch of mess in the middle that we got to manage through. But in the long run, ignore the mess in the middle, just like stocks, right? Ignore the mess in the middle. Over the long run, you're going to be pretty safe picking index funds that are broad stock market funds and just sitting on it if you can ride out the little messy middle.
I like playing, I'm a nerd. So, the Federal Reserve St. Louis, the Fed, has the little charts you can play with. And I always find it interesting. Most of the data series you can change from like a tabulation method from monthly to quarterly to semi-annual to annual. You can do end of period or average. And it's just amazing how scary those charts can look if you've got the wrong view, right? But if you're doing average annual on home prices, it's a very nice, smooth chart. There's only 2 or 3 times where it goes down. Yeah. And it doesn't go down very much. And it tends to go up faster after that. If you do monthly or quarterly, it can look like a bumpy road that, will shake your axle loose. But I think, depends on what the project is, which view you need to look at, right? Because if you're going into a fix and flip, you need to understand that it could get bumpy, right? But if, like you said, if you're looking long-term, if you're investing long-term, fire and forget, lots right. No regret, right?
Yeah, I mean, in a couple months, I'm going to the Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting. It's probably the last time Warren Buffett's going to, speak at the annual meeting, and that's always been his advice to investors: is slow, consistent growth is the way to go. Don't get caught up in hype. Don't get caught up in craziness. I remember, because I was kind of coming into the business world at the time when the dot-com boom was happening, he was skewered for not investing in dot-com companies. People were making billions of dollars left and right. These funds were making tons of money. You could throw money at a wall and triple your returns in the stock market without knowing anything about stocks. Just buy Dell, buy Microsoft, buy Amazon. And he would not invest because he said, the numbers don't make sense. I'm going to stick with what I know and be slow and consistent. And, sure enough, within a couple of years, half those companies were bankrupt, investors lost their shirts, and he's just continuing to grow and grow and grow. And I think that's true in so much else of life. We can't see the forest for the trees. I think sometimes we get so razor focused on today, we can't see the big picture, and the big picture looks just fine. We got ups and downs and struggles in a moment. We got to manage through them, but zoom out a little bit and it looks a lot better.
It's funny, Buffett, there's a video I found of him in, I think, 2012, 2013. Well, they're talking about his Laguna Beach house, and he had bought it for like $150,000, and he put $30,000 down and got a $120,000 loan at like 7.5%, 8%. And the commentator on CNBC was like, "Well, why would you get a loan? You didn't need the money." And he just kind of chuckled. He was like, "Well, at that time I was buying Berkshire for $3,000 a share or $4,000 a share. I don't remember which one. He's like, so I probably bought, 3,000 shares. It's like that investment alone's worth $750 million today." And you're just like, "Oh, good for you, Warren." But he then talked about the 30-year mortgage being like the best investment vehicle ever because it's a one-way bet, right? Rates go up, you're golden.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Rates go down, you refi. Like, it's just, it's interesting. And I think that's part of the message I tell investors these days. Like, look, if that property cash flows, values may fluctuate a little bit. Rent may not keep going up like it has been, but rents don't really go down in general. I mean, especially single-family pre-existing homes. I mean, you may have some new subdivisions that get a little wonky. We know multifamily, all of a sudden, they're giving away free rent and things like that. That can get a little wonky, but if you've got a 322 brick house in a nice tract home subdivision that was built in the 80s, I mean, the rents are the rents, right? I mean, it is what it is. I'm going to take a break, and then we'll come back. We're going to do the Money Minute and then a little bit of rapid fire. Stick around. We'll be right back.
REI Inc. is a monthly business publication for real estate investors, covering all types of real estate investments and strategies. It is the most comprehensive real estate investment publication on the market. All of the articles are written by the top leaders in the industry, so investors are assured of always getting the best information possible. Each month, REI Inc. also profiles the top companies in the industry and provides insights and data into key regional markets. Along with their sister platforms, the REI Referral Network and Highest Invest, real estate investors have exclusive access to off-market investment opportunities and national acquisition and disposition initiatives. To learn more, visit www.rei-inc.com, where you can also access the REI Referral Network. Also, be sure and visit www.highest-and-best.com to view the latest exclusive off-market assets with near immediate acceptance decisions and closing strategies. You can also email marketing@rei-referralnetwork.com to request more information.
Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Herridge. I'm here with Jeremy Brandt. And don't forget, click below, like, rate, subscribe, review. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know how we can do better. Jeremy, Money Minute, my favorite part of the show. 60 seconds. Imagine there's an entrepreneur, an investor out there that this is the only 60 seconds of advice they're going to get all month. You know, they're going to be shut off to the world. So 60 seconds, best advice you have, go.
All right, well, for the Money Minute, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think any entrepreneur, any investor, anybody that is in business today, one of the most important things you can do is familiarize yourself, understand, and use in your business some of these AI tools. These things are transformative for business. Over the next 3 to 5 years, if you're not aware of them, aware of their impact, and aware how to use them, you're going to fall behind the curve. I view AI and where it's at right now similar to the arrival of the web, the arrival of mobile phones, and the arrival of the social media economy. We're about to see this curve as businesses take use of this, and we don't even know how it's going to be used. But if you don't understand it, you don't know how it works, and you're not in the middle of it, you're going to be left behind.
So speaking of left behind, how do you feel about different marketing technologies or channels at this point in time? Methods. I mean, direct mail has been one of those stable things, and I'm talking about it for real estate investors.
Yep.
But the boomers continue to boom out, and then you've got mine and your generation. We're not spring chickens. I mean, eventually, do we even have a mailbox? Like, I mean, how do you feel about the evolution of? And by the way, 20 years ago, SEO, PPC was the new thing, the cool thing. What's the next cool thing?
Yeah.
Like, how are you evolving your companies?
So on the marketing side, it's a great question because we've done every type of marketing possible under the sun to connect with home sellers and test it and, retest it down the road because things change over time. And so one of the things that we do is we set aside a specific budget to just test new marketing. And it's money that we know we'll probably lose. We know it'll probably be flushed down the drain. But we have to test every new marketing method that comes down the road to see if we can make it work from a lead generation standpoint to connect with home sellers. And so that is, I think, advice I would give to anybody in their business is set aside a budget for experimentation and know that that's just your experiment budget, and you're going to probably lose that money, but you're going to learn a lot from it. Our marketing methods have definitely changed a lot over time. We still do a lot of direct mail. I think that's still got a lot of legs. My mailbox is always full every time I go out and look at it. A lot of people are spending a lot of money on direct mail. I don't get anything except for advertisements in my mailbox anymore. Not even bills show up in the mailbox anymore. But I think that as the younger population starts to get older and buy houses and need to sell those houses, you can see where a lot of the advertising is going, right? YouTube, we do a lot of YouTube advertising. We do a lot of inserting ads into video streams. So if you've got Hulu or you've got some of these other streaming platforms, our TV ads will be inserted into the streaming platforms because quite often now people don't even have cable. You can't go buy a regular TV commercial. You can buy it on these streaming platforms, which, by the way, is amazing because they have demographic information on their customers. So on a streaming platform, I can target just you as a customer with my ad. Maybe it's a little bit more expensive, but if I can do a one-to-one targeting or a one to, slightly broader demographic targeting, it can be very, very successful. We've done lots of TV ads, but the problem always was you pay per eyeball on TV, and 99% of those eyeballs don't care about selling their house to you. And so the more targeted advertising that you can do, the much better return you get. So things like TikTok and some of these other Instagram, social media platforms or platforms where people are spending a lot of time. I don't think TikTok is right for investors right now. It's a very young audience, but over time, it or its successors are going to be the place that people spend all their screen time, and that's going to be how you market. You talk about declining advertising. 20 years ago, we did a deal with a couple of Yellow Pages companies. We had an ad in every single Yellow Page in the country. Every print Yellow Page in the country had a half-page ad with our real estate business that would turn into a lead that we would sell. And it's been funny to watch the decline of Yellow Pages. So we still have these ads in every Yellow Pages in the country. But the volume of calls has just fallen off a cliff, right? We get, 20 or 30 or 50 calls a month now for a national ad in the Yellow Pages. I mean, if you had to pay for it on an ad space basis, it would be astronomically unsuccessful. And so always having to innovate, always thinking about what's the next thing, what's new, and always experimenting to me are the way that you stay ahead in business. You always have to be trying the next thing. Even if it doesn't work, you got to test.
I'm only 44. I'll be 45 soon. I still get the real newspaper at my house. Part of it is a bit of a nostalgia. When I was overseas in the Corps, I loved reading it. But now it's a break from the screen, right? And especially on the weekends, I can sit there in my recliner, cup of coffee is very like a movie. Look, my dog's right here, my kids are running around, and I just sit there and read the paper. And I always get to that section where I see "We Buy Houses" people advertising, and I'm always blown away. Does that still work? But I'm sure it does now. But eventually, we have to stop printing the paper, and it's going to be a global warming thing.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of things that just don't make a lot of sense. And I think it's a lot of, we talk about old guard companies, right? It's a lot of companies that have held onto their way of doing things. They make enough money for it to be a real company, but it's dying, and they kind of know it's dying, but they don't know where to go or what to do with it. And they got to protect the thing that got them there. I was talking to a friend of mine about this the other day, and we're just kind of going through the companies that protected the stuff that got them there and refused to change, that then subsequently went out of business, right? I mean, the easy ones are, of course, Blockbuster, right? And I actually worked on this when I was in technology. They were building Netflix. So Blockbuster had a whole plan to build this digital streaming platform based in Houston. They were doing all this work, couldn't get it off the ground because the core of the company was physical location, video rentals, and they couldn't disrupt the core of their business. Same with Kodak, right? Kodak invented the digital camera, but because their main revenue driver was film, they didn't promote the digital camera. They kind of shuttered it, and somebody else, ran off with it. And now, where's Kodak? I don't even know it really exists anymore.
Well, think about digital cameras; those don't even exist anymore.
Right?
Really?
Well, I mean, now your phone, right? If you think about all the digital camera companies, completely went away because of the phone. Unless you're in super high-end photography, your phone camera is better than any digital camera I had during that kind of run. Right. So again, I think you always have to be experimenting, looking forward, and not thinking the thing that I did for the last 5 years or 10 years is going to be the thing that carries me to the future. Always be testing, try to stay consistent, but always be testing those new things.
We mentioned earlier, not on the show, but before the show, that the owner of this company that the studios that we record in, mm-hmm. and you mentioned that the two of you are in the EO together, Entrepreneurs Organization. Clearly a successful guy. You've built some great companies. What is it that makes you a part of? Why are you a part of that organization still?
Yeah. Well, I kind of talked about it at the top of the show in that I want to surround myself with really smart people that know more than I do about other things. There's a lot of stuff I know a lot about, but you can't know everything about everything. And somebody knows more than me on just about every single topic out there. And so one of the things that I love about Entrepreneurs Organization is it's a nonprofit, so nobody's getting rich, running a giant mastermind group and charge people tons of money. All the money goes back into supporting all the members. And I think there's 15 or 17,000 members now all over the world. So every big city that I go into, immediately there's 150, 200 company owners, entrepreneurs, people that founded their companies that I can call and get introduced to and have lunch with, and just like-minded people. A lot of the things that I've learned about AI have been on chat groups that a bunch of the tech entrepreneurs, we all kind of hang out in a chat group together, and we're talking about how are you using it? What are you experimenting with? How is this different? So I think that's part of the reason it's been so important to me. And I've volunteered a lot of my time to supporting the organization, helping make it better, involved in starting new chapters of the organization. And then I think the other thing that's critical for especially entrepreneurs is having a peer group, a group of people that you can be around and be kind of your authentic self. One of the things about being an entrepreneur is it can be very lonely at the top. Your employees look at you a certain way, your friends that aren't in business look at you a certain way, and you kind of have to kind of hold the world on your shoulders a lot of times. And these peer groups where everybody else understands what that is and what it feels like, kind of allows people to relax and just be their authentic self around a group of people that kind of get it. And so that's been really valuable to me as well. I take a couple of international trips a year with a group of guys that we've been meeting every single month for 17 years now. 17 years we've met every single month for 4 hours and done deep dives in our business and our personal life. And it had really is transformative for my business, but even more so transformative for me. And they're, my best friends now for sure. And the people that, a friend of mine in the group, and the way he framed it was, he said, when I die, there's been a group of people that are carrying my casket. And a bunch of people in this group are the people that would be carrying my casket, in addition to your family members and other people, but it's who are the most important people in your life. And I think that's kind of what happens when you get like-minded people together that share passions, have similar kind of worldview and thought processes, and you put them in an environment that just lets them really get to know each other. So if you're an entrepreneur, again, it's a nonprofit, so nobody's getting paid, but if you're an entrepreneur running a business, I would really encourage you to check out Entrepreneurs Organization or some of the similar organizations out there. They're phenomenal.
I think that's the reason you've seen in the real estate investment space such an explosion of these masterminds. Jason Medley runs Collective Genius, Kent Clothier with the Boardroom, Mike Hambright with Investor Fuel, Matt Andrews with the Family Mastermind, Bill Allen with the 7-Figure Flipping. All these people, it's lonely at the top, but this industry in general is just lonely. Because a lot of times, a lot of these folks, it's just them sitting, and their wife goes off to work, and the kids go off to school, and it's them, and they may go meet their contractors, and they may stop at the title company. But you talk about two groups of people don't understand you, right? Like they just need money. So I think, and since joining RCN, kind of coming out of retirement, I've seen this. I've enjoyed it. Like just being around people again that I get, kind of like they're my people, and I actually spoke at the EO at the Dallas Country Club. I think it was EO. I don't know, YPO, EO. I get confused.
Yeah.
And I just remember driving away thinking, how to join that group. And then, you just never get to it. We're going to run out of time soon. Do you want to give maybe some contact information or, I don't know, a little quick infomercial about what all you guys do for real estate investors?
Sure. Well, if anybody wants to get a hold of me, I'm on LinkedIn. That's probably one of the easiest ways, or you just go to jeremybrandt.com and contact me through there. And certainly, the core of our business is providing leads and marketing services to residential investors. So anybody who's an investor anywhere in the United States, we're happy to work with you. You can contact me through the websites I just mentioned, or you can go to fasthomeoffer.com or webuyhouses.com, and we'll have somebody reach out to you.
Very good, man. Well, this is the time I ask every episode. Parting thoughts, parting shots. I saw you laugh earlier when I said that in a different episode.
Well, how many people actually give shots?
A couple. People that have known me a really long time, they're like, well, I'll tell you what, man.
No, I love it. I like I said, I love surrounding myself with smart people and getting in deep conversations around things. So I love the opportunity. I appreciate you having me, and appreciate the meandering conversation that took us through AI and real estate and technology. And I love it. I mean, that's the favorite thing I have to do is sit down with people and just have a good conversation about business and life.
Our goal with every episode is to help investors make more money. That's just, I'm not here to sell loans. I'm not here to even grow my personal brand. I'm a big believer in giving without expectation. So
Sure.
I appreciate the other night, I'm going to go a little over. The other night, I'm sitting there in my recliner. My wife's over here on the couch, And I said something, and she goes, let me get Chat GPT to do it. And I stopped there. I said, what? And it was just funny. And so I love that you are maybe the first guest to really get into machine learning. And I'm a big believer in it. We're looking at it internally and ways to improve processes and streamline communication and transparency, right? Because the more we can really serve our customers quickly in this environment, and like in today's technology environment, I think that's how we resist being the old guard company.
Absolutely.
Well, man, I appreciate your time. Thank you for being here. We're out of time. That's it for today. Thank you for swinging back by. Remember, your network is your net worth, and today you've been growing both. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Uncontested Investing Show. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time. The preceding program is furnished by RCN Capital, LLC. The information provided is for general education purposes only and does not constitute any legal, financial, investment, or other professional advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by any speaker are the speaker's own opinion and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of RCN Capital, LLC. No information contained in this episode should be construed as financial, investment, or legal advice from RCN or any individual, author, host, or guest. You should always consult a financial advisor before investing.